Okay, everybody, today's tips and tricks are 5 or 6 things for every common prepper. And the first one is, as you step off of your front porch, as with everybody's, there is one edible plant here and one not so edible plant here. And real simple and real quick, break out your little black mirror, okay, and get online and download a little app called Picture This, and it will identify pretty much every plant around you and in your area. Most of them have a free trial, and there are many apps, but a plant identifier will help you, because right here off of my front porch there's one that'll hurt you and one that'll help you. And both of them considered weeds around here. All right, so get your little app while you can and learn everything possible. Some books would be a good idea too, but you got the convenience right here. Use it. All right. Okay, tip number 2. Everybody is talking about solar, wanting solar. Solar this, solar that, power, EMP, after the fact, grid goes down, blah, blah, blah. All right. Well, should any of that happen, and gas goes to $10 a gallon or 15, you're gonna have a lot of these sitting around. A lot of even older ones. Some of those, a lot of those, they're gonna be sitting around everywhere. Not only yours, but everybody else's. And why do you need power? Well, most people right offhand are just gonna think lights. If the grid goes down, you need lights. All right, there's far more important things, but the first thing that everybody wants is lights. And when it gets dark outside, we as humans just aren't meant to deal with it, so we need artificial lighting. All of the lights on these new vehicles and old vehicles, farm vehicles, utility vehicles, are all 12 volts. And inside each one of these vehicles is a 12 volt battery. So by taking the half a mile of wiring out of this vehicle and a single headlight hooking to a 12 volt battery, you could pretty much light the entire living room of that house just with a simple light and a battery. Granted, it's not going to last forever, but you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sitting around that gives you light. All right, and many panels that are available around, if you just look around, abandoned houses, on the highway, running emergency signs, things like that. There are panels around. And you can directly wire that panel to a battery and make a charge. You don't need all the fancy controllers and gizmos and gadgets. It does work, it's not perfect. But common sense, guys, lights. And you don't have to get the biggest, brightest one on the car. All right? The little interior lights in there, 12 volt. All right, you take these covers off right here, there's a little white light 12 volt inside of there, and you can use all the wiring in an old vehicle to wire your entire off-grid place with a 1 car battery. Okay, tip number 3, your fire. Gone to all the trouble to make fire. Now, it needs to be as efficient and least noticeable as possible. Everybody's got their split firewood. All right, guys, a couple of things. First, take your big firewood and split it into smaller pieces. All right, it burns much more efficient the smaller the piece of wood. Yeah, you're gonna have to add more wood more often, but the fire will burn hotter and more efficiently if you use a smaller piece of wood. Okay? The other thing is, don't build a fire and just pile wood on top of your fire. Okay? Build you a small fire. Let's use this as an example. This is your fire. Get your small split stuff and stack it into your fire end first, so that you're only burning this portion of the log. Okay? If you look back at tribes people over time, this is how they cook and burn fire. It's much more efficient, easier to put out, you have less waste, you're gathering less wood, and the fire is concentrated in this area. And as the stick burns down, all you do is move the stick onto the fire. Much simpler, much more efficient, gonna save you time and effort. Only build the fire as big as you need it. There's no need to have a huge, massive bonfire over here to cook one little pot of stew or whatever it is you have. Simple fire, feed the logs in from the end as they burn down to keep your fire going. Okay? Okay, tip 4 or 5 here. You got security lights around your place. When the time comes, don't light your house. Point those outward, away from your house, to oncoming people, and you'll have much of the effect that looks like this. As you can see, well lit, and if you face them out, you get that. Much harder to see what's going on when you're looking into that. Last tip, if you find yourself needing the last bit of fuel out of an abandoned vehicle, most vehicles manufactured in the last 20 years have an anti-siphon device on the vehicle. Rather than getting up under there and attempting to poke a hole in the fuel tank and blow yourself up, if you'll look right up there, there is the filler hose. The anti-siphon device is located up there. So a sharp knife, cut the filler hose, insert your siphon hose, voila, you have fuel. I would highly recommend a self-priming hand-operated non-electric fuel pump. Readily available, $25 or so, local hardware store. Alright, so again, fuel line filled, fuel tank, anti-siphon device up here. Alright, common sense, guys, is going to get you through a lot of this. Okay guys, the point of this one is there's a tool for every job. Standard old military backpack, aluminum frame, waistband, shoulder straps. The special thing about this one is it's got this little shelf on the back right here. It's actually removable, but when you stand that up, it makes a little carrying shelf back there, and when you know it, a 5-gallon bucket just fits perfect on that little shelf. Of course, you can cut all the bag off here. There's a lot more efficient bags now, but this little backpack with the shelf on it right here is just a great little item to have. When you find yourself out foraging for food or gathering wood, whatever it may be, it makes it a lot easier to carry this 5-gallon bucket on a backpack rather than in your hand, because you want your hands free for you know what. Just a little backpack. I think when I bought it 20 years ago, they were like 30 bucks at the Army Navy store. Your 5-gallon buckets too, guys, when you realize you don't have enough water, be sure to have a clean 5-gallon bucket with a sealable lid on it. That way when you hike to get your water, by the time you get back to camp, half of it hasn't sloshed out on you. A lidded 5-gallon bucket. Look into these backpacks. I'm sure there's a certain number or military ID for it, but I think getting one with the little shelf is a little harder to come by today. Okay guys, and the last tip for today, when you realized you haven't stockpiled enough food and you have to go out into the great wilderness to gather food, remember, the laws aren't there just to protect the animals. There are hunting seasons for a reason. I'm sure many of you have heard the old wives' tales. Don't eat oysters certain months of the year. That goes for wild game as well. Don't eat rabbits before the first frost. Lots of parasites on those animals, guys. Be very careful and cook your food really well if you're hunting wild game. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate it, guys. Stay safe.